This time, I went with the 14-inch MacBook Pro with M5 Pro chip, 48 gigs of memory and 1 TB storage. I already have a 16-inch M1 Pro, and honestly, that laptop still works completely fine. I never looked at it and thought, this is too slow or I need a new one. Problem is that I stopped wanting to carry it. I wanted to find out if this new M5 Pro can be the actual Mac without giving up the heavier deployment and editing setup that I already have. Don't get me wrong, the 16-inch M1 Pro that I have is great when it's on the desk. And once I put it in a bag with a charger, SSD, and whatever else I'm carrying, I really noticed the size. So I wanted to try the 14-inch and see whether this could be the Mac that I can actually take outside. I went with 40 gigs of memory because my normal setup gets slightly ridiculous. I have a cursor open, another editor somewhere, a browser full of tabs, Docker running, and 1 or 2 coding agents doing the same thing in the background. Then I decided to edit a video without closing any of it. So 48 gigs of memory felt like where I could stop thinking about which app needed to be closed. It's probably unnecessary for a lot of people. For the way I use my Mac, I think it made sense. I also want to test some local models with Olama. I genuinely don't know how much of any of my paid AI workflow they can replace, but at least this gives me enough memory to find out. And mine did come with a charging brick, so there's no drama there. For the color, Apple calls this space black. It does collect some fingerprints, that part is unavoidable, but I still prefer it over silver. I usually gravitate towards things that are a little quieter and don't stand out too much. I did think about waiting for the M6. Every few weeks there seems to be another rumor about OLED touchscreens or something else, but there's always another Mac coming next year. I want to test what is available now and see how it compares with my M1 Pro. I'll make a proper M1 versus M5 comparison after I have used this for a while. I also want to see how the local model experiment goes, so subscribe if you want to see those tests. The onboarding is pretty straightforward. Connect to Wi-Fi, sign in with your Apple account and create the user. If you have an iPhone, Apple can pre-fill a lot of this for you. I don't have that experience because I'm still an Android user. I've used Macs for around 8 or 9 years, but somehow I've never moved to an iPhone. At this point, I think Android's for me. I could also transfer everything from my M1 using a migration assistant, but then I would immediately bring across years of apps, extensions, and random settings. It would also make this setup video slightly pointless. So I'm starting clean. I want this Mac to have the apps I use now, not every app I've installed since buying the M1. There are only a few settings I change, but I notice them every day. First, I clean the dock. I generally don't understand why a new Mac starts with so many apps sitting there. I remove almost everything, move the dock to the left, and turn on auto hide. I find it easier to reach there, and it gives me more usable space on the screen. I keep the magnification fairly high because if the dock is hidden most of the time, I might as well make it obvious when it appears. Then I hide all the desktop items, otherwise this clean desktop will last about 2 days before it's covered in screenshots and random files. I also turn on tap to click. I don't want to physically press the trackpad every time I select something. Finally, I set hot corners. I normally use one corner to lock the Mac quickly, another for screensaver. You can assign other actions, but those are the ones that I actually remember to use. That is basically it. I don't want to spend an hour making new Mac look productive before doing any work on it. For the browser though, I keep coming back to Chrome. I do this every time. A new browser comes out, I install it, move some tabs over, and convince myself that this is the one. I tried Arc, Dia, then after a while, I'm back in Chrome. It's not exactly shy about using memory, but it works well with Android, my bookmark stays synced, and I already know where everything is. I've also been using Ask Gemini when I open a long YouTube video. If I only need the main points, I can ask a summary instead of watching the entire thing. So Chrome is probably not the most exciting choice. It is the browser that creates the least friction for me. Before installing the developer tools, I set up Homebrew. Homebrew is basically a package manager for Mac. Instead of visiting different websites, downloading an installer and dragging the app around every time, I can install a lot of things with one command. It's not the most interesting part of the setup, but it makes everything after this much easier. Just remember to add it to your path after installing it. Otherwise, you will type brew, nothing will happen, and you will wonder what you broke. For the terminal, I use warp. I've tried other terminals, but I keep returning to this one as well. The command history is easy to read, the tabs are useful, and it handles long-running sessions nicely. Warp has become much more than autocomplete now. You can run Codex, Claude, other agents, keep multiple sessions going, and review changes from the same environment. They're also pushing this whole software factory idea, which is a grand way of describing it. My use is simple. I normally keep an agent in Warp, let it work on a project, and then inspect the actual changes somewhere else, like anti-gravity or on cursor. Then I set up Git and my SSH keys before I forget. SSH gives you a public key and a private key. The public key goes into the GitHub or GitLab. The private key stays on the Mac. Never show or upload the private one. Once the connection is configured, I can push and pull without entering my username or password every time. I use both GitHub and GitLab, so I keep the identity separate. It takes a few minutes to configure, but it's much less annoying than discovering later that a commit used the wrong account. My editor setup is probably the part that changes most often. I use Cursor quite a lot. I also keep VS Code installed. I use anti-gravity sometimes because I already have access through Google AI Pro. But most of the actual agent interaction now happens in the terminal, either through Codex or Claude. My workflow is slightly backwards compared with how I used to code. I keep the agent inside Warp and let it make the changes. Then I open Cursor or anti-gravity to inspect the files properly. Technically, I can review everything inside the terminal. Once I have several agents and tabs open, I find it easier to separate the jobs. Warp is where my agents work. The editor is where I understand what they did. For iOS development, I still use Xcode. There is no clever alternative there. Before committing anything, I normally open Sublime Merge. I like reviewing the diff away from the agent conversation because it forces me to read the actual change. Then I install Docker for projects that need containers. This is where the 48 gigs becomes easier to justify. Once Docker, the browser, editors, editing tools, and a few agents are running together, I don't want to monitor memory every 5 minutes. The M1 can still run this workflow. The M5 simply gives everything more breathing room. Raycast is probably the first productivity app I notice when it's missing. I use it for launching apps, moving windows, opening projects, and accessing my clipboard history. It also has extensions for small things like keeping the Mac awake, so I don't need a separate app for a tiny function. At this point, Raycast has basically replaced Spotlight for me. I also use Whisperflow a lot. If I need to write a long prompt, explain a bug, or get an idea out quickly, I usually speak it instead of typing everything. Sometimes the transcription needs cleaning. That is still easier for me than staring at an empty box and trying to write the perfect sentence. Notion is where I keep the useful version afterwards. Rough thought into Whisperflow, clean it up and save it in Notion. I use a different AI tools, but not for exactly the same job. Codex is what I use mostly for coding work, repeatable tasks, and some of the systems I maintain outside programming. I have used it for running plans, improving my training, and working on iOS projects. Cloud is something that I use when I want to stay close to one code base and work through a problem interactively. I also have a system that collects useful information from YouTube videos and podcasts, then turns it into something I can actually use. That saves me from trying to follow every AI update manually. And that is something that I do using Codex. And then there is Olama for local models. The idea of running more things locally is appealing to me because I don't want every experiment to become another monthly subscription. Whether the models are genuinely useful with 48 gigs is something I still need to test. I'll show the results in a proper review rather than pretending I already know the answer. So subscribe to this channel if you want to see more on that. For monitoring the Mac, I use iStat menus. I like being able to see memory, temperature, and battery behavior when I'm running several things at once. For video editing, I still use Final Cut Pro, which is my main editor for long form videos. I do have CapCut for shorts and quicker vertical videos. I also keep Daisy Disk and App Cleaner around because storage slowly disappears and I never remember where it went. Al dente, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, is something that I use when a Mac spends most of its life connected to a power. I normally limit the charge rather than leaving it at 100% all day. Whether everybody needs to do that is a separate argument. It's simply how I use mine. I don't need every one of these apps on every Mac. The development tools overlap. The creator and maintenance apps depend on what I eventually use this machine for. So that is the current setup. I've also put the shorter version on my website because the list will definitely change. AI tools seem to rename themselves every few weeks at this point. The more interesting test is what I install without having to think about it. For me, this is probably Raycast. What is the first app you install on a clean Mac? Let me know because there's a good chance I have missed something useful. And I'll show you the M1 versus M5 comparison soon. Please subscribe and catch you all later.